Call of Duty is a long-running franchise of first-person shooters developed by several teams and published by Activision. Initially, it started its life as a series of World War II shooters, before making a radical switch to a modern-day setting with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare in 2007. Ever since Modern Warfare, COD has been shifting between various time periods, going all the way into the distant future with entries like Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare, but on two occasions, COD had a comeback to its WW2 roots, the first one being in 2008 with World at War. Developed by Treyarch, who later went on to develop all the Black Ops games, World at War is one of the more important entries in the franchise for several key reasons. But enough rambling, let's get into the actual video, shall we? Let's start with the single player. World at War's campaign, like all of the COD campaigns beforehand, puts you in the shoes of several soldiers fighting on the various battlefields of World War II. Here you'll play as both an American and Russian soldier, switching between each other every few missions. There were plans for a British campaign, but that one got scrapped. A big novelty for the American side is that all of the missions take place on the Pacific theater of World War II, where you'll be placed in the shoes of Private Miller as he battles his way against the forces of Imperial Japan. Once you begin the game, right off the bat, you'll notice that World at War has a very different atmosphere compared to the previous games, especially World War II ones. In the very first mission, you are held captive by the Japanese, and you witness one of your buddies getting his throat slit before you are rescued by your squad. This opening scene perfectly sets the tone for the rest of the game. Whereas all of the previous games, except Modern Warfare to an extent, were designed to make you feel like you were in a Hollywood blockbuster war film, with its cinematic set pieces and over-the-top action, World at War really takes the dark overtone and cranks it up to 11. Don't get me wrong, you'll still take part in loads of scripted battles with tons of brain-dead soldiers, and the structure of the actual campaign remains the same, but the entire feel of the game is different. You really experience the brutality of war in all of its fucked up glory. You'll see hell-burned Japanese soldiers slowly walking towards you, waiting for you to put them out of your misery. You'll be given an option to shoot the Nazis or let your comrades throw Molotovs at them, your dead bodies being booby-trapped, etc. The game's engine has also been reworked to further emphasize this brutal approach to the campaign by implementing a simple gore system which allows you to blow off an enemy's legs by a shotgun or completely shred them using something like an FG-42. This is the first time COD did something like this, and it will still stick with you after you finish the game due to how good Treyarch managed to combine all the audiovisual elements. Another thing you'll notice are the mission briefings during loading screens. These are narrated by Sergeant Roebuck and Viktor Reznov, who will have a much more prominent role in Black Ops, and unlike Modern Warfare, whose mission intros were made in typical professional/media reporting fashion, the World at War ones are pretty personal and sometimes chilling to the bone. As the game progresses, you really do get the feeling of descending into hell itself, and in my opinion, this is a testament to how good Treyarch can be in implementing original elements into their Call of Duty games. Moving on, how's the gameplay looking? Well, it's typical COD with its hit-scan brain-dead enemies, a 2-weapon limit and big flashing "you're hurt, get to cover" messages. It seems that all the Nazis and the Japanese know is to shoot at you from behind cover, charge at you with bayonets, and throw grenades at you. Speaking of which, fuck the fucking grenades! One of the biggest problems COD campaigns have always had are the downright broken difficulties. Playing on Hardened or Veteran only seems to increase the damage enemies do to you, as well as equipping them with a billion grenades they'll relentlessly throw at your feet. You know what? Fuck it. Never feel bad about playing COD games at regular. There is absolutely no skill involved whatsoever. It's not like in Doom or any other old school FPS game where there's a genuine challenge on higher difficulties. This is just artificially making the game harder, which is not fun at all. On the other hand, the weapons are nice. Since it's World War II, you get all the weapons you'd expect, from the M1 Garand with its magnificent to the MP40 and STG-44. You also get a flamethrower, which is nice and horrifying. The tiring routine of shoot, take cover, run, shoot again is sometimes broken up by either a tank mission or something else. For example, the first Russian mission in which you meet Reznov plays out like it's been stripped directly from enemy at the gates, and it's really atmospheric and immersive. The level design is also stock standard COD with a linear point A to point B structure, which is surprisingly, on a few occasions, broken up by giving you two possible routes of reaching your goal. You'll also be on the lookout for death cards, cheat cards like the intel you gather in Modern Warfare. But enough about the campaign. COD has set itself up as a franchise which is mostly played for its multiplayer. Modern Warfare laid the foundations of all COD games for years to come, and in that manner, World at War's multiplayer is pretty much the same. Or is it? On one hand, the progression system and the ability to make your own class by unlocking weapons, perks and other things remains the same as in Modern Warfare, but the maps themselves are bigger, more open and offer more options in gameplay, which is in sharp contrast to Modern Warfare's small maps, which mainly focused on short to medium range encounters. World at War also includes vehicles on certain maps, something we hadn't seen since United Offensive and won't see ever again. As for modes, World at War included all the standard ones, though nowadays, at least on PC, the only games you'll be likely to find are Team Deathmatch and Hardcore Team Deathmatch. I don't have a problem with this, it's still fun, the matches aren't long and the increased XP rate means you'll unlock shit faster. But that's not all, kids, oh no. World at War also unleashed Nazi zombies to the world, a special co-op mode which you unlock after beating the game for the first time. What first started as a fun little experiment quickly evolved into one of the absolute staples of the franchise. Nowadays you have COD players that strictly play zombies and nothing else, and if this doesn't give you a clear picture of what zombies did for Call of Duty, well, I don't know what will. I could sit here and talk for hours on end about all the different maps across several COD games, the lore Blundell and the boys at Treyarch wrote down, and other interesting quirks, but that is a topic for another video, we gotta stick to the basics here. Well, in essence, Zombies in World at War is a survival mode where you and up to 3 more people have to defend yourselves against waves of Nazi zombies, which get more challenging the more rounds you survive. You earn points for wounding and killing them, as well as repairing various barricades, which serve as your first line of defense. With these points you buy weapons and ammo, which are placed on walls, as well as unlocking more parts of the map. However, the more rooms you unlock, the more places zombies can swarm you. Fortunately, these new rooms often contain stronger weapons, as well as a mystery box. The mystery box is vital to your survival in zombies, because if the RNG favors you, you can get some fantastic weapons such as the iconic ray gun. Originally there was only one map, Nacht der Untoten, but Valve came with 3 more, Shinonuma, Verrückt and Der Reise. Or there is I don't know. These later maps further spiced up the gameplay by introducing perks and map-specific objectives. Perks could be bought at vending machines and would give you benefits like quick revival, faster reloads and so on. Map-specific objectives required you to do a specific sequence of various things in order to unlock something on the map. These objectives would go on to have a much more prominent role in later zombie installments, but as an example, in Valve's Der Riese, you have to activate certain teleports in order to unlock a pack-a-punch machine, which lets you upgrade your weapons. Moving on, I've already mentioned the game's moody atmosphere, but what about the visuals themselves? Well, for the most part they are standard COD. Valve was released in 2008 and it looks and sounds like a game from 2008. The textures and models are pretty good, while some of the jungle areas look stellar thanks to the good use of lighting effects and shadows, which really bring the moist jungles of the Pacific to life. The sound and the music on the other hand are very good, especially the soundtrack. This one really differentiates itself from the classic cinematic score in the sense that it really amplifies the entire brutal atmosphere of the game. The score pumps up during the game's more chaotic combat sections with some heavy guitars, after which it transforms into these eerie and oppressive ambient tones that, in combination with a bleak and gloomy filter which overlays the game's visuals, fully captures the players and doesn't let them go until the very end. The voice acting also does its job, with Rezan standing out as the absolute beast of a character. There isn't much more to say about it, so this is where I'll stop. When it comes to the negative side of things, there aren't many objective faults with the game itself. It is stable, works well on modern hardware, and for the most part is void of bugs. Though, while recording footage for this video, I did notice certain glitches with some of the models and animations, and the timing of some of the scripted sequences seemed off. Also, a couple of months back when I installed the game to play some multiplayer, I noticed that I couldn't start it properly. I'm not sure what causes this, and maybe there was something wrong with my machine instead of the actual game, since I played this on both Windows 7 and Windows 10, and apart from that one time when I couldn't get the game running properly, I never experienced anything like it. Apart from these problems, the only other negative things that I can think of are purely subjective. The biggest problem with COD games have always been the fact that they are so polarizing among the gaming community. Most of the people have already made up their minds how they feel about the franchise, as well as this entire subgenre of military first-person shooters. It's a game you'll either love or hate, regardless of its actual quality. There really isn't anything wrong with the campaign itself. Its length is also pretty normal for a COD game, around 6 to 8 hours, and I personally consider the multiplayer to be one of the better in the series because of its open maps and vehicles, plus the original bare-bones zombies come off as a nice breather. The only other off-putter could be its ridiculous price tag. It's $20 on Steam, which I believe to be too much for an 11-year-old game. But that is Activision's fault and not Treyarch's. Apart from that, I personally consider World at War to be among the better entries in the series, and I would absolutely recommend it to people looking for a different, darker take on World War II, but still packed into that familiar gameplay mix.